for giving me your time. And thank you again to the City of Port St. Lucie for inviting me to participate in this. It's a really, really great project. And, you know, at the world we live in the world we live in today, we really, really need to get together and just kind of show each other love. I really want to start off this with it's a prayer, but it is something that I hold very close to my heart, and I've used it throughout my life from the very first time that I saw it. And I think it goes hand in hand with our mission today and what we're trying to achieve. It's the peace prayer of Saint Francis, and it says, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, let me sow love, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Whether or not you are willing to say amen, that's fine, and that's here and there. Today, I'm not sure if you guys went to other presentations before this, or you have like the actual mission of the forum, but the forum's mission is to bring people of Port St. Lucie together to listen, to share concerns, to learn, to plan, to act, and report on progress in maintaining and enhancing our promise. You know, I really feel that what's important for me in this project is the piece on bringing people together. As it's very important at this point in the world's history and in time that we move past things, beliefs, and whether personal, whether religious, whether they're even political beliefs, and really need to just love each other and come together. And I think that's definitely, you know, the mission of Port St. Lucie, and we live in a really, really great city. It's beautiful. It's sad that we have all these things and issues going on in the world, but just to give you a little bit of background on myself, my name is Kalypso Vassalotti. I've lived in Port St. Lucie for 11 years. I volunteer with several organizations, such as the Human Trafficking Coalition of District 15. It covers 4 different counties. So that's Okeechobee, Indian River, St. Lucie, Martin, and also Seroptimus International of St. Lucie County. And right now I'm working alongside the health department as an independent contractor, and I do testing. So specifically it's HIV testing and counseling, and it's free. It's under a grant through the state. So if there's any questions about that, if you guys have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm very, very easy to find today. I'm in San Antonio, Texas, and I'm at a conference and a training for human trafficking, and what the United States Conference and Catholic bishops, what their mission is to try to end modern day slavery, which is human trafficking at this time. That's just one aspect of modern day slavery, and that's only in my opinion, but their main focus is on human trafficking. Um, so I do a lot of I try to do a lot of work in that area and in that realm, and also within health and reaching out to the LGBT community. So you may ask yourself, what made her so interested in being interested in helping the LGBT community or getting so involved in that? Well, part of my history is that I am transgender. I'm a transgender woman, and what that means briefly is that I was born male, and throughout my life, I have transitioned, and I live fully as a woman or female. I identify with all female pronouns, so it's her, Mrs. I'm also married, so it's definitely Mrs. And to go back and to give you, these are some of my accomplishments. So I'm an honor student at IRSC. Like I said, at 24, I met my husband, and we're now married. We've been married for 5 years, and we live in Port St. Lucie. We really, really love it in Port St. Lucie. My husband is a business owner, and at this time, I just started my own business as well. We have 4 dogs, which are our children, and I just became a legal resident, which was a 21-year ordeal. So definitely, with perseverance, I believe that anything is possible. So these are my accomplishments. So today, I would say that I'm happy and I'm moving forward with my life and I'm comfortable. But at one point in my life, I was not. And I was born Catholic, I was raised Catholic. I was born in Trinidad and Tobago to a mother that was not ready to have children at the time. She had me when she was 18, and my sister was born a year before me. She gave us both to my grandparents. I was born on Christmas Eve. On Christmas Day, I was living with my grandparents. And I never really had a relationship with my mom or my father. My grandparents were my parents. And they assumed the role of being my sister and the parenting role. So early in my childhood, I didn't know, as a child, you don't know that you're transgender per se. Children have no language for that. Granted, it was back in the 80s, and today we do have children and we do have the internet, and there are children are able to find information and they're able to identify with people that are older and see people that they identify with. So at younger and young, it's becoming easier to identify with what your gender is because you see people and you understand who you are. But certainly in the 1980s in Trinidad, there was no language for being transgender, and certainly it was not tolerated at all within my family or within my social groups and my peers. So the bullying, the shaming, that began very, very early in my life. And eventually we moved. My grandparents brought us here to the United States, where it did continue because I then got into school and I was an immigrant and I did speak English properly, but it wasn't it was with an accent, so it was different. So not only was I not conforming to what the normal male was, I looked different, I spoke different, so there was a lot that went along with that. So I think it was about 15 or so that I told my grandparents that, I really feel like there's something different about me. I I honestly I had no language of being transgender. So I automatically thought that I was just a gay boy because that's all I knew. So I tried to tell my grandparents, I think I'm gay, and they told me that, that's not acceptable. And the more I tried to explain to them how I felt, um, they were not receptive to it and accepting at all. So at about 15 or 16, they told me I had to leave. Um, I was still in high school. So I went from about 15 or 16 years old to about 21 or so, um, excuse me, being homeless and not having any kind of support. So once I once I left home and I had nowhere to live, I had friends that I thought were my friends, and um, I was exploited. So eventually, I I was the wording would be trafficked, because it's being trafficked is being exploited, using coercion or using fear in order to get labor or sexual favors from someone. So my friends would sell me. They would take me to Orlando. They would tell me, we're going here to go to a party, and this person wants to meet you. And they would sell me. So they would either receive drugs or money. And it's not until my 30s when I really started getting into human trafficking and learning about what it really was that I actually is when I really knew what had happened to me in my young adulthood. So um, eventually, I met my husband, and rewinding, I did not have my papers. So I wasn't a legal resident, and I became caught in the immigration system. And what immigration did was, because I wasn't able to find an attorney, because immigration gave me, they give you an option to go to like Catholic charities for immigration help. And I went to the local Catholic charities, and because I remember at this time, I'm male, and I don't necessarily identify as female, but I have very, very feminine mannerisms, and it's just natural, and the way that I speak, the way that I express myself. So automatically, people would just automatically think and know that I was homosexual. So when I went to Catholic charities, they told me that this lady at Catholic charities told me that I was an abomination and there's nothing that they would do for me. This was just the first line, which was a receptionist. But when you're when you're out and you have nothing, and you go to the first line of help, which is why I got into all of this work. You really need someone there to be like an advocate for you and to give you encouragement. And certainly you don't need someone to tell you that you're going to burn in hell or you're an abomination and you have no idea of how the system works or what you can do or what your next route or avenue might be if this person tells you no. So you just kind of shut down. So I was homeless, and I was ordered deported because I had no immigration help. And so for 10 years after September of 2004, for 10 years, I was not allowed to, um, excuse me, ask immigration for any kind of relief. even though I did meet my husband, and we eventually did get married. Like, it was about 7 or 8 years later after we met, we finally were able to get married because marriage equality became legal in New York. So we drove there and we got married, and so 10 years passed since 2004. And eventually, in 2014, my husband was able to petition for me after going through several attorneys. We were able start my immigration process. And as of August 1st of, which is only 2 months ago, I just became a legal resident. That's after 21 years of waiting and living here in the United States. So certainly it's not an easy process. And until marriage equality was passed, it was not an easy process for anyone that was LGBT. And you can imagine that if you're before marriage equality was passed, if you were LGBT and you came from a country, and most countries outside of the free world, that's outside of the United States, Canada, and some Western European countries, like England and France, uh, uh, Norway, and so on, those Western countries, pretty much everywhere else in the world, you can be killed for being a member of the LGBT community. And, excuse me, and so it is not by any means easy. And so eventually, like I said, as of that, this is one of my latest accomplishments. I finally, I'm now legally able to go to school, which I was going to school before, except I was just paying out of pocket to go to school. Now I'm able to try to access financial aid and really take up like 2 or 3 classes a semester. So one was costing $1,200 for one course to go to school before I became a permanent resident. And besides the LGBT community, many people that are not that are out of status, that's living here in the United States, that came here as children, um, they are paying to go to school a lot of money, and they they have a problem paying for it because it certainly is difficult when you're not legally able to work. But many people definitely, I think I can stand up and say for them that they don't have a problem doing it because they want to be um, they just want to be educated, and they want to be accepted here in the United States and just be normal Americans because that's what we grew up as. We were brought here as children, and we ended up kind of just being here, and we left this country. So um, moving forward from like what my experiences are, and certainly I'm really trying to keep it short, and I try to keep it short about getting into details as to what transpired in my youth and how difficult that was, um, because it's very difficult, and it's very difficult to listen to. Um, so moving forward, my main reason for my work right now is within HIV testing and counseling, and it's also in human trafficking. And I tell my story at human trafficking conferences, and I get more in detail because most of these people work in the field of human trafficking, and it's I guess it's never really easy to hear someone's horror story, um, but it's just very difficult to actually live through every time you say it. and there's people around that understand what you're going through, and how that trauma reoccurs every time you tell the story. So today also, we're here at the forum. So I really want to be an advocate for my community, and I really don't want you guys to get like sidetracked just on my story, because my story is really just, it really applies to me. And everyone has their own story, and certainly it's not, my story isn't indicative of the LGBT community as a whole. So, there's lots of LGBT people living in Port St. Lucie. The numbers alone would say it, just based on how many people live in our city. And so the numbers kind of speak for itself, but a lot of people still live in stealth and still live in the closet, so to speak, because sometimes it's not easy being, you know, um, trying to live an out life or a proud life, and and you're living in a really conservative city or town. The um, Human Rights Campaign, there was a survey done, or an article that was written up, and our city unfortunately did did not uh, rank very high on that, um, in that poll or in that survey that was taken for like best places or um, inclusive places for members of the LGBT community to live. And I also want to say, too, as an advocate for my community, we are not like, we're definitely not trying to, we're not trying to recruit anyone. We're not trying to take over anyone's city or change anyone's life. We just kind of want to live our life and kind of feel safe just being regular citizens, and we're human, and I go to the store in my community, I see other people from my community. We go to Walgreens and we go to Winn-Dixie, and everyone at Winn-Dixie knows me, and they say, "Hi, Miss Kalypso, how are you doing?" Everyone in Starbucks says, "Good morning, Miss Kalypso." And I would love that life for everyone, uh, for everyone, and really anyone in the world, anyone. We live in a free country, and that should be the life that everyone has. And unfortunately, like, I had to work really, really hard to, kind of like gain that respect and show people like a different. I'm always like really loving and really trying to connect with people on a human level rather than I'm a trans person, you know, level. It's just, I'm a human, you're a human. I love other human beings, and just kind of like just love each other. And eventually, after many many years, I can say that I love the city that I live in, and people love me back, just for who I am. But I really wish that other people would feel the same way too, and feel free to be able to live that life, and to just kind of just be everyday citizens. Um, Also, in the human trafficking arena, um, a lot of times, we, play and acceptance of your young LGBT children play a really, really big role in this human trafficking thing. A lot of times when we think about human trafficking, um, we think about it happening in other countries and um, maybe just towards immigrants, but our American kids are being trafficked and they're being picked up on Facebook, on all those social networks, at the parks. They're being recruited at school. And these are young kids. Like we have kids as young as we're identifying victims at like 12, and they're being recruited by people that they really do trust and in places that we really do think are safe. And a lot of this is happening in especially towards, and I'm speaking mainly about the LGBT community, when kids are starting to um, say to their parents, um, mom or dad, I think I may like this or that, which when you're in that age group, like, you know, really, I don't think like sex, sex should be an issue. Like, those are kids, so it should never be that. I just think that when you're in that age group, I guess as adults, that's all we see. Like when kids say, "Oh, you have a daughter," that may say, "I think I like my friend, and she happens to be a girl." All we see is like this, like a sexual picture, but it's not. It's not usually that. It's a lot of times it's kids are looking for acceptance, and it's probably easier, and it would probably like behoove us to just as parents, but I'm not a parent, to say, well, I love you and you don't need to worry about that right now. And this is really not the place in your life for that. And, let's find another avenue for you to, exercise like your interests and, kind of lead your kid in the right direction instead of like automatically saying like, no, I don't accept that, and then the kids are going out, excuse me, and they are looking for love and acceptance among friends and peers. And a lot of times, like we find that kids are being trafficked, by their peers. They're saying, "Oh, well, let's run away. I have a friend that can take us to this other state." And here we go, like we have an issue. Um, so there's a lot of things like I'm certainly not speaking from like a speaking down point of view. I certainly don't know everything, but again, like I keep saying it, like I'm just speaking from a human point of view. And um I just think we can relate to each other on a human level. It's like just being human and just loving each other and just communicating and talking to each other and kind of working things out. Like we're humans, that's what we're good at doing. Like it's natural. And I just don't know how come like we don't like solve these issues and problems like just in a more just in a lot more easier way and not so complicated. Like everything's just all so complicated. um and it gets like all convoluted and really really black and white, and we just really at the end of the day we just really really need to just love each other and be there for each other and accept each other. um Certainly there's like good and bad in everything, but most of us, I see the good in people, and as an advocate for my community, I can tell you like most of the LGBT community are good-hearted, loving people that have great jobs, and they work among everyone. We're right there with you. Um, we love our country and we pay taxes, and we would do anything to make our country better or like to contribute to our country. And if you asked us, to do something or to be a part of something, we're willing and ready to do it, and we want to do it. Like, we just want to be a part of your community. Um, moving past all of that, it certainly, if you guys have like any questions, if there's anything you'd like me to answer, I'm not opposed to answering anything at all. And you can really, really, really just ask me anything. I don't know if you guys have seen me in the community, or, might have driven past me or seen me at Winn-Dixie or at Starbucks, where I'm always there. Yeah. And, or, I go to St. Bernadette Church a lot of times when I'm on my way to classes, because I go to the St. Lucie West campus. So I usually go there a lot. Sometimes I go to the Hindu temple whenever I'm over on US 1, and it's open, because sometimes it's not open. So sometimes I'll stop in there. And it's a really, really, really great place to go, just for some quiet and relaxed time. And it's just a really great, great space in the universe. So um, if you guys have any questions, like I said, I'm really, really willing to answer anything you'd like to ask me.
Okay, we do have some questions, Kalypso? Just for the members of the audience, we do need to use the microphone for questions. So if you have one, just raise your hand and I'll be on over for you. Okay.
Thank you. Hi, Kalypso. First of all, I have to tell you that I'm really proud of sharing your story. I'm a counselor at IRSC at the St. Lucie West Campus, and I'm also a member of the Diversity Committee. We have been trying for a year to figure out how to help members of the LGBTQ community. But what I have heard from my colleagues is that they have tried to talk to students and that they're not willing to participate in conferences or anything like that because they're afraid to share their stories, and they said that the school is not ready for it. I will really like to work with you so that we can maybe figure out a way to help our students. We really want to make the college a safe place, for everybody, but we need your help. And we meet, at least once a month, so maybe later we can communicate and see if we can figure out, a better way for us to help us. I work as a counselor, so I have the chance to meet with students, every day, and I really like to get more training or a better way to help them. So
I understand. That sounds really, really like a really good plan, and anything that I can do to help out, I'm willing to do. I do find that as well. Like, I go to that campus as well when I'm in school, and I always asked around the campus, is there like an LGBT club, or somewhere where, other students can feel safe, because I'm older, so I'm kind of like, um, I'm very comfortable in being who I am. And but I never really, besides the diversity club, and which I attended that a couple times when Shannon was doing it. Um, it was that was like a real safe place, but not a lot of students, are willing to come out. And I think, also a lot of our this is very important, and I miss this, but like a lot of our LGBT community are driving outside of Port St. Lucie. They go to mostly to Fort Lauderdale. They go to Orlando, and they go to West Palm Beach to access healthcare. They go there to eat. They go there to party. or for entertainment, even like to just go to the movies, they go to other places. So like I think like that's a pretty big deal. And when you consider like where people are going to eat and you're not spending money like right here, not in San Antonio, but right here in Port St. Lucie, like you're not spending the money in your city, um, and you're not like really feeling welcome. And a lot of the kids, when they grow up and they find out what and where they are in life and the role they want to play and who they want to be, they are leaving. You know, I've seen so many people leave Port St. Lucie and go to other cities because they say, um, I feel safer there, like, and not really safer as in the sense of because we live in a really a pretty safe city, but they feel like I guess a little bit more like free to be um, gay or lesbian, I suppose. I've certainly gone through that myself because when I first moved to Port St. Lucie, I didn't, I was totally scared. Like, I was like, well, I told my husband, I was like, well, I don't know. Um, I think I really want us to leave. And I don't think I like it here. And I don't know anyone here. And there's nothing here. And one there's one bar here. It's a gay bar, but I don't really identify with that, and that's not really what I want to do or go. And there's just not that. Um, so yes, to get back to what you were saying, anything that you want to work on or do, I'm more than welcome. More than happy to help you. So please feel free to like contact me, and I think I'm pretty easy to find in Port St. Lucie. So,
Thank you.
and I go to that campus too. So I'll figure it out. I'll find you soon.
Hello. I wanted to thank you so much for sharing your story. And you're such a courageous person. It's wonderful to know of you. I'm a lesbian woman who's lived in Port St. Lucie for a year. And there are 3 trans people who come to my church, the Unitarian Universalists. And I know they would like to connect with you, so I'll be giving them information, your name, because they're looking to connect. And
Absolutely.
they're fabulous. So thank you so much.
That's just great.
Hi, like everyone else, I want to say thank you. And just a comment, the lack of attendance in this room shows me that how do we get people more open to this conversation? I have a lesbian girlfriend that's married. Oh, I think I'm losing the mic. And lives in New York City, so she's very comfortable there. But when she comes home to the Treasure Coast, she's petrified to be herself. How do we start shifting that mindset to where you're Jamie, you're not lesbian Jamie, you're Jamie? How do I convince her just be you? And how do we start changing the mindset of the community that, like you just said, you're a beautiful woman, and that's what you are. You're not transgender Kalypso, you're a beautiful woman. How can we as a community start to change that mindset?
Honestly, like when I have this conversation, I just kind of, and sometimes it's not, a lot of people are not ready to hear it because it's the truth. So it's just really quick and simple. When someone says lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender, the first thing that pops into most people's mind is sex. And at the end of the day, it's not about sex. And you know, I can speak on each one of them specifically. I'd like to tell you, I can tell you I've lived as a gay man. So I know about what it is about being gay. I know what that life is like, and it's not it's not about you don't become gay because you have some sort of sexual deviation. Um, it's not about that. It's about who you truly love. I mean, I certainly wouldn't recommend um, someone, and I don't think anyone would recommend that either. Like, oh, like just don't be gay. Just you should just be straight. You should just be with a woman. What that is a lie. Like that is just a lie. Like if a guy is attracted to guys, he shouldn't forcibly be with a woman, and then that woman is being lied to, and and how does that make us better? And then when the kids are born, like how does that help us? And also I live as a transgender woman, and I think a lot of people, when I walk around, do you see how I'm dressed right now? Do you guys see how I'm dressed? I am always dressed I try to be like as conservative as possible, because when you say transgender, automatically people think like you're really like it's very physical, and like it's all about sex. So I try to really, really kind of cover everything up, which doesn't really, I don't know how that helps my self-esteem per se, but I like clothes, so I dress really nice, and I can figure it out. But I do it because it helps people in my city, and people that I'm around all the time feel, it helps them not to think about sex when they're having a conversation with me as a trans woman, like, oh, she's just, so, it's just always about sex. And I think that aspect, that part of it, sex has like this negative connotation to it, and it just throws everything out of line, and there's no way to just see the human if all you see is just sex. Like, you don't see the human in the person. Like, that person is just trying to live, and whether he's gay or she's a lesbian or she's transgender, they're just trying to live. I would say, like, for most people that know me, they're like, you're really conservative. Like, I've been with my husband for 12 years. We've been married legally for 5. We just my husband is like really into football, and I really hate it. And, like, I just can't. So, I'm always like, I'm a homemaker type of person. I'm always cooking, and yeah, it's just like, we're just like normal. And I know lots of gay guys that kind of like have that same thing, relationship going. And sometimes I do have a transgender friend who told me she liked football the other day, and like she was like, "Oh, you guys should come down." And they live in Fort Lauderdale. You and your husband should come down and have dinner with me and my husband, because it's football season and we really go at it about football. And I'm like, what? I'm not sure if I want to come. Well, I'll just come after football season, but I still haven't made it there yet, because the whole football thing just throws me off. So I'm sorry. So yeah, um, you know, I always try um, to steer away from the whole sexual thing, because I really think throughout history and throughout like every challenge like the LGBT community has had, and you know, every time like we try to come together like as a country or as a state or a county or a city or as groups like trying to like bridge that gap, that part of it really kind of throws it off. And you know, when you look at a heterosexual couple, which is a man and a woman, you know, and and like your colleague at work says, oh, you know, like yeah, you guys want to meet up for lunch or dinner or whatever, and I'm bringing my husband, and you know, it's a lady, and she's like, I'm gonna bring my husband. You don't automatically think like what are they doing, you know, like privately, you know, and how that is wrong or how that is like immoral, like, you know, and you know, I just think, but that's just my own thoughts, you know, if we can just get past that, you know, that sex word and just thinking like it's all about sex, like, because it really isn't. It really isn't. A lot of us don't even have sex. Just
Kalypso,
saying.
I've got a follow-up question for you on that, but I'm going to hold it to see if anybody else in the audience has a question. So,
Hey, Kalypso, Greg Orvek. I happen to be the mayor, and we got the vice mayor over there right there. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Oh my
Hey.
God, that is
Are you
I'm
scared of
just
big bald
sneaking
guys?
up now,
Don't be.
guys.
It's no problem. I have a follow-up question for that, because the vice mayor and I get questions about making the city better all the time, and we had that question about, well, where should we go, or what should we do? You know, Tattletales isn't for everybody. What are we going to have for our community? And what I say, it doesn't matter if you're talking about this type of amenity or place, or you're talking, every project requires a champion. And so I would want to see someone from the community who's going to be a champion, that's going to put the blood, sweat, and tears into it, make it happen, and then I bet that you'll have people like the vice mayor and I supporting you. And we want to know if you have internal challenges or external challenges. Because if it's an external challenge, well, that's where we take safety and being the right place, a safe, prosperous place for all people to heart. And we can help with that. If it's internal, we can only help through facilitating dialogues like this. But you know, the government can't provide every solution. We need someone from the community to say, we want this type of club, we want this type of place, and then we will do what we can to facilitate your development of it. But we can't just hand it to you, because without a champion, it will fail. But I want you to know that there are people like that, and I don't want to put words in the vice mayor's mouth, but I've just seen her provide leadership on these issues so much. I just want you to know that we're there, and I wanted to bring that conversation clip so back to that, because we're here for you. I don't know if you wanted to weigh in, Vice Mayor.
Hi. So I will say, oh. She can see me if I step a little closer towards the middle. You can see me if I step a little closer. Hi. So I would say to the mayor that we do have champions in this community that are struggling to find a place and funding, and they want to move forward. They have
Right.
struggled to get into the schools. I have been working with this issue for 10 years now. And I see it and I hear it all the time. But we have a really great community out there. They want to move forward. I hear what you're saying to us. I am not sure how much we can do, but they've got to start that foundation. And they are looking at that, and I know
what-
they're looking for places
Yeah,
where they can meet.
what I'm doing right now, it's I actually started this project called the Spectrum Project, and a nonprofit which I'm trying to get off the ground called the Lady in the Shoe. And what the Lady in the Shoe is it's a, I wouldn't say it's a community center, but it's like a cultural place, a multicultural place, where just not only the LGBT community can go and feel safe, but this is also what I say to my community. Let's not. We have a smaller city here. We have a different dynamic. It doesn't work like Orlando or Miami or Fort Lauderdale. We have a family-oriented dynamic here. Let's have a place where it's safe for everybody to go, you know. And when I say safe for everyone to go, this place promotes it, you know, it's referrals and different services, whether or not you're LGBT or you're heterosexual, because I don't think we should do too much of singling people out, and because at the end of the day, like, we're a community, and we should really try to kind of like pull all of our resources together and really come together, just like Mayor Orvik was saying. Just, you know, we really need to come together on this, and just try to find a way to include everyone. And I don't know per se. I certainly do have lots and lots of ideas, and like he said, you know, like the nightclub is not not necessarily for everyone, and certainly it's not for me. I do pageants, but that's not in like a nightclub scene, and it's totally different. So, you know, that's not for everyone, and I have ideas of like art shows and galas and things like that, because that's something that I don't necessarily see on the Treasure Coast or within the 4 counties, like very very upscale events where like everyone is invited, and people feel because a lot of times like I travel out of town to go to like these black tie events where I can dress up, and you know, everyone wants to feel that way, whether or not you're you know, fabulous trans woman or not. Every woman wants to look beautiful, and every man wants to dress up in a tie and, you know, a nice tuxedo and go out sometimes. And you know, to be able to do that and to be helping your community at the same time. I do a lot of art, you know, and I'm certainly willing to like donate all of my artwork to like have people like have it auctioned, and for whatever it goes to, you know, just so that whatever brings our community together, you know.
I think that you've hit on some really key points. And, you know, art and culture, even in the 4-county area, is lacking. And I don't disagree with you. We continue to work on those areas. And I would also suggest to you that we are a family community. And when I say that, I mean that to take a community of Hispanics, to take LGBT community, to take a community of our Filipinos is divisive, because we have all of the same people in every one of those communities. But if you're willing to reach out, I think there are other people that are also reaching out, and they're all saying the same thing. You know, we can say, yes, we have a bar here, but there are a lot of people that go there who are not a part of that community, that quote community.
Correct.
So they need some help and direction. And obviously, it's not so easy. They want a meeting place where they can start bringing those communities together, all of them. So I would applaud you. I would also suggest, if you are able, that you reach out to those communities. You've got some really fine people in there that they just need, some of them need guidance and help to move to another level. And that level isn't where you want to be, but they got to get to that level, then to the next, then to the next, then to the next. Because when you're in Fort Lauderdale or you're in Miami, nobody goes, oh, gee, that's a gay art show.
Correct.
You know, my brother was an
Correct.
artist. Nobody says, oh, that's a gay black tie event. That is bringing all of us together. So
Absolutely.
I applaud you, but I would suggest, if you can, reach out to those people in the community and start the conversations and start the direction.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank
And Kalypso,
you.
thank you very much for your participation today. We greatly appreciate that.
Thank you.
Do you
Thank
have,
you guys for
do you-
having me.
Do you have
I
just a
will
couple
see
minutes?
everyone around Port St. Lucie. I'll be back on Sunday night. So Monday morning, somewhere, you'll see me.
Kalypso, do you have just a couple minutes yet? I had a follow-up question to one of the others that I'd like to hear. It sounds like we have had quite a number of questions relative to the issue of whether or not it's best to assimilate into the community or maintain your sense of identity and your pride. And I sometimes wonder, have we, as an LGBT community, gone overboard in our efforts to gain acceptance and equality and over-assimilated at the expense of our identity and our pride, and thereby losing what pride or identity that we can bring to the community that others have been looking for? Any thoughts there?
I think that in some ways that can be true, and it is the interpretation on that is it's kind of like it's subject to where we are and the communities in which we live in. So in saying that, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think it's based on where you live and how much. At the end of the day, I don't see myself as being just LGBT. Before that, before me being LGBT, before me being a person of color, before me being an immigrant, before me being a victim, a survivor, and before all of that, I was born a human being. And I guess that's how I answer that question. All I ever see is how am I gonna try to reach other people in this life, and regardless of what my gender or what my social group is, I don't think we lose there's nothing to lose when you gain love. So I don't think it's so much of like assimilation and acceptance. When you knowledge is just like a wonderful thing, and then love comes with that knowledge. So when you reach out to people that who may not have accepted you before, and when you do things and you keep giving and you keep giving and you turn that other cheek and you turn that other cheek, and then finally that person loves you, I would give up anything for that. I don't need to be, I don't need to be trans, or, you know, to say like, you know, you know, I have my this culture. The culture we need to have is the human culture, you know, and that's certainly just my opinion, and I do understand how, you know, how much we have fought for in the LGBT community, and the freedoms and all these things, but in lots of, you know, in other subjects, this question comes up in other subjects that we deal with every day. So I'm not gonna say what they are, but you guys know what I'm saying. This comes up, like, how do we keep our you know, our culture and all this, and my response to that always, and it's just my beliefs inside, and I just have to be honest that, like, I would I would continue to do whatever it takes, and I think for maybe for the majority of my community, like, we just want to be loved. So if we just want to be loved, everyone just wants to be loved, and everyone just wants to be accepted, and everyone kind of just wants to assimilate. And in order to like create that space, that harmony, like, sometimes we do have to not necessarily lose everything or lose our culture, but like, we just have to go back to the basics of just being human, and we're all human. That's our culture. You know, that's my culture.
Thank you very much. Great response.